And then very similarly, you of course have the Crucible, which is also a very hotly debated topic, and whether they're doing enough for it. And obviously, it isn't Bungie's priority, as you can tell. Had obviously the new map and the new mode, but you can't really expect a ton from Crucible. And I think overall, just the format of multiplayer PvP is also getting a little bit stale. Like, you see it with COD, even, like, no one really plays multiplayer. Multiplayer is not the bread and butter for COD, which is crazy because it used to be. It used to be Call of Duty was team deathmatch, domination, search and destroy, PvP. That was the essence core of COD. You had the campaign you play, and then you have the Spec Ops or zombies, and then you have multiplayer. That is COD. But that pretty much, I think, around like Infinite Warfare and the World War II, it kind of just diminished. And then thankfully they managed to pull one out of the bag, and they found Warzone, which is obviously the battle royale. The battle royale genre, which just exploded with Fortnite and popularized with Apex as well. And that is now COD. Like, when you talk about people playing COD, it's pretty much Warzone. That is now the new mode. And even that in itself, I think recently we're seeing the battle royale genre is slowing down a little bit, kind of fatiguing, but definitely not to the extent that multiplayer has. Like, the whole multiplayer genre is very, I feel like it's only kind of more on the competitive side nowadays, like Valorant and CSGO. Just the kind of casual multiplayer doesn't seem to be a popular thing right now. And the classic example is COD. Like, multiplayer is, like, I always ask my friends, like, we always talk about COD, but I always ask, do they actually play multiplayer these days, or is it just, no, it's just Warzone. Warzone is COD now, basically. And going back to Crucible, I think it's similar. It's always going to be just a fun side thing to do. Let's just try out these weapons and play some Crucible. But I think it's been there since 2014. Crucible is still pretty much the same thing for like 9 years. So you're not really going to see much change. And it kind of just is what it is. And I think a lot of the frustration you see is kind of down to just the mode in itself. It's just, it's an aging mode, and I don't think there's really much you can do about it.
I think that the big pivot next is actually going to be to extraction shooters. I mean, you see things like Escape from Tarkov really gaining ground, and Hunt Showdown is much less popular, but by those who've played it and who understand it, it's seen as kind of an artisan experience of the genre and something that has really helped blaze trails. So I think that that's really where the PvP experience is going to focus on next. But as far as Destiny and the Crucible is concerned, I mean, unless Bungie's making an extraction shooter in the background, they're certainly not going to be doing that in Destiny. And you know what? Yeah, that does hold things back a little bit, but I'm actually kind of okay with that. You know, having the PvP-centric experience, getting looked at and getting some love, but also making it so that it's not the core of everything, I think is a good move. And the reason being is this. I think Destiny's PvP is best when it is wacky and fun and a little bit nonsensical. Like, yeah, sure, there are people who are totally going to disagree with me on that, and that's fair enough, because I know that people want to be able to sit there and take it competitively, and that's fine. But I genuinely do feel like the way that Destiny's sandbox is built out fits the style of game that we're talking about there a lot better. You know, if you want to do something competitive, there are other games out there which absolutely should fit your mold better. I mean, you brought up Valorant, and that's a perfect example. You know, go and find yourself a shooter like that where, aside from anything else, you don't have aim assist up the wazoo. You know, you have so much aim assist in Destiny, and playing another shooter makes that very obvious. So, you know, again, it's very much one of those things of we will see changes as time go on, but I don't think that Crucible necessarily needs to change as long as it keeps the kind of lighthearted, whimsical tone. You know, it's why Shaxx is perfect for this, you know? When he shouts at you at the beginning of a match and says, you need to throw more grenades, you should be throwing grenades as I say these words, you know? Like, that's what Crucible is to me, and that's what I think it does best, you know?
Yeah, you mentioned the extraction shooters. There are rumors of Bungie working on some kind of extraction shooter. I mean, obviously we know they're working on
marathon extraction shooter, right?
Yeah, which would make sense, but again, as with all leaks and rumors, we'll just wait and see. But we know Bungie is obviously working on quite a few other games. They're working on some kind of mobile game with their NetEase partnership, and there's rumors about, well, we've seen the listings of their job listings of some kind of competitive shooter, more esports driven gameplay. But again, what that ends up being, who knows? It could be something related to Destiny or a different game. All we can do is speculate at this point. But yeah, we know Bungie's definitely, as they've said, they want to work on multiple games in kind of in conjunction with Destiny, which will obviously be their main thing. But we'll definitely see them expand the Destiny universe and make other versions that kind of can be played in parallel. And it would make sense. Something a lot of people do suspect is that the reason they're putting a lot less time into Crucible is because they are working on an actual PvP arena shooter, which would make sense because Destiny is obviously PvE first. That is the main priority. That is the bread and butter of the game. So it would make sense where they kind of probably reached a point where they're like, yeah, Crucible is kind of holding the game back. We can't iterate on Crucible like we would have wanted to. So let's just keep it as it is. Don't take it too seriously, and then let's actually make a proper competitive PvP experience. Something will be something like Overwatch or Valorant, where you have the heroes, maybe they're Destiny themed heroes, the face travel. That would be cool. But it would make sense that Bungie are working on some kind of proper PvP game, and that's why there's such a lack of focus on it in Destiny. And again, it would also go back to Bungie's roots of Halo. Of course, they were pioneering of the competitive PvP shooter. So we'll see what happens with that. But Crucible is, as always, our old neglected friend that's over there.
Still kicking, but I don't know. It's got an interesting journey ahead of it. Not necessarily one that leads to meteoric growth.
Yeah,
I think it's fair to say that the days of Destiny 1 and the Trials of Osiris days of House of Wolves, Taken King, those are long behind us. And you know what? I'm happy for those to remain a memory. I'm happy for them to try and iterate and make things reasonable nowadays, but we shouldn't be sitting here and anticipating a return to that kind of former glory. The world has moved on. And I'm okay with the idea that we should be moving on too.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. Everything comes to an end. I think it's very important with a lot of things, whether it's movies, TV shows, music, games. Like, you just get bored of things. Things you enjoy them while you can, and then things end. Everything comes to an end. But trying to cling on and like, oh, why isn't this as fun as it used to be in 2015? That's not how things go. And I think a big reason of why Crucible was so fun was because it was new, and it was new to everyone. Like back in 2014, just the entire gameplay loop of just using grenades and hiding behind cover and aiming and supers, all these things were just new. So it was a more kind of just an innocent experience. Whereas now, every single minute detail of Destiny's mechanics is mapped out. We know exactly about the shotgun spread pellets and the range and just all of these little intricate details that nobody knew back in 2014, 15, 16. But now all the minutiae of the actual mechanics of the game are kind of figured out to a point where it isn't as simple. And I think that's a big part of it. And that's obviously what's going to happen with age. It's very natural. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's important to not kind of cling on to, oh, why isn't it like the House of Wolves days? But you can't go back in time. Things will evolve.
Back in the day when Trials did release, we knew nothing about recoil direction. We didn't know that an aim assist cone was a thing.
Yeah.
And now you have people sitting there and making that as part of a pretty normal discussion on a YouTube video regarding how a weapon performs. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is not the same.
Cones and hip fire spread and in-air accuracy and sniper flinch and all these intricate details. But yeah, definitely do remember a lot of those good House of Wolves days. Obviously, we played Trials a ton, pretty much every weekend for years, made a lot of videos. You can still watch them and relive the old times, but I don't think we'll be hopping into Trials anytime soon. That's definitely a lot more hardcore experience.
I think the days of you, me, and Oki terrorizing the Crucible are over.
Fun days, though. Fun days. I mean, there were times where the six of us would just hop in and we'd just play Crucible just for fun and casually, and we'd obviously do a lot of stomping because we had a pretty good team and we played the game a lot. But nowadays, I feel like we just get stomped by just hunters just flying over our head and just like stasis everywhere. But it was fun times. It was definitely fun times.
Absolutely.